Okay, so let's just look at a couple of stories here. Parents felt pressure from gender clinics to transition children. This is a new study that is out and published in the Washington Times. A newly released study found parents took their adolescent children to gender clinics, and they said they experienced pressure to agree to the transition process, and their children were worse off afterward, not better. See, this is really important. Somebody says you need to take your child to a gender dysphoria clinic. I say no. But, maybe that's just the hate monger in me. Or the lover of truth, that gender is eternal. Okay, so I don't take my kid to the gender. These are parents that did, and then agreed to the treatment, coming out and saying their kids were worse off afterwards. My kids did not get better. They got worse. Okay? So you're not coming in with, open up your scriptures now, and if you take them to the clinic, they'll be worse, not better. Okay? It's not that. It's parents who, most likely, like every parent that's alive today, we didn't grow up with times like this. I mean, I remember my parents going, we didn't grow up with television. And I'm like, Wilma and Fred Flintstone had a television. When were you a child? And life seemed different, but not entirely. I cannot relate to being a teenager today. I wouldn't want to be a teenager today. It's ugly. It's just ugly. The choices and the things that they face and the lack of truth and stability. So, of the 390 parents who said they had visited a gender clinic or specialist, 51% said they felt pressured to transition their child socially or medically, versus the 23% who said, no, I didn't feel that at all. 25 said, I'm unsure. I don't know what's the right thing. Now, up in Canada, you're going to feel even more pressure. Canadian political party has introduced legislation that will create anti-free speech zones around drag shows and punish anyone caught making remarks deemed offensive. And who's going to be the judge of that? LGBT activists. And the government will come in and fine up to $25,000. Are you kidding me? I want to show you the press conference photo. Look at this, Stu, if you haven't seen it. This is the Canadian government in a serious non-Halloween press conference.
Oh, a lot of people wearing masks. What do you mean it's not Halloween?
Yeah, it's crazy they're still wearing masks. You'll see the woman in black that kind of looks like a really scary Cher. That's a witch.
Maybe the offspring of Cher and Elvira.
Yeah. She's an actual witch.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then you have drag artists and a child in front. And they're all there to say, hey, we're people like you.
Now, is that a wizard in the back there?
Yes, it is a wizard.
Okay.
It is
Just
a wizard.
wanted to make sure I understood.
Yes.
Is there any Romulans? Is there
no Romulans.
No Romulans.
No.
Why don't they include the Romulans in the LGBTQIA acronym?
Let me help you out on this. They this guy, John Dobby, goes as crystal quartz. And he says, people started showing up to all my events, screaming at parents and myself, saying that we were groomers, pedophiles, and a bunch of other homophobic slurs to make everyone feel unsafe to attend. These acts of intimidation have made our safe spaces feel unsafe. You'll notice, let me read this again. See if anything jumps out at you. They started showing up to all of my events, screaming at parents and myself, saying that they were groomers, pedophile, and a bunch of other homophobic slurs. Anything stand out in that?
Give me it one more time.
Then they started showing up at all of my events, screaming at parents and myself, saying that we were groomers, pedophiles, and a bunch of other homophobic slurs.
Well, parents
sticks out there. Parents
Yeah.
sticks out. Now, because I would imagine that your performances used to happen in clubs.
Right.
Where you wouldn't classify the audience as parents.
Right, because how would anyone know?
Correct, if
that
you're
they
a
were
parent
parents,
or not.
Unless perhaps children were present.
Huh. Now, the CBC just ran this really great article where they say that, look, back in World War II, they say every military group had a drag performer. Now, I missed that in my World War II history, but I'm not saying it didn't happen either. I don't know. I mean, I've seen South Pacific, and that's about as far as I can do to relate. But, they had my favorite Martian in the coconut bra. Okay, so I get it, I guess. But again, no one is arguing about trans performers. You're in the military. You're doing a trans thing. Okay, whatever. I don't want my military paying for it and everything else. But if it's like I don't know. I don't know. But that's for adults to figure out. Here's what the problem is. And these trans performers and all of the left that is whipping this up fail to appreciate. We're not talking about trans people. We are talking about our children. You do your thing. Okay, boo, we're going to do ours. And I live in a world where that's not healthy for children. How could you possibly say that? Well, I can possibly say that because I've looked at what's happening with gender care all over the world. We need to be more like Sweden. Okay, let's do that. Sweden led the progressive pack on transgender health care. They were the first country to allow people to change their legal gender back in 1972. In 2018, they proposed a law to reduce the minimum age for sex reassignment surgery from 18 to 15. Let 12-year-olds change their legal gender and ditch parent consent. What's happened since in Sweden? Well, in 2022, they decided to stop giving hormones to minors, except in extraordinarily rare cases. And they said, no more mastectomies on teen girls. That's Sweden. How about England? The Tavistock Child Gender Identity Clinic in London had 5,000 patient referrals in 2021. So before all this madness started, in 2011, it was 250. This caused some concern with their health service, their National Health Service. They hired a pediatrician to do a review. Long story short, they shut the place down. The NHS now has ditched affirming care, which sets the kids on the path of irreversible modifications. Okay? England, Sweden. How about France? February 2022, the French National Academy of Medicine issued a statement. A great medical caution must be taken in children and adolescents given the vulnerability, particularly psychological, of this population and the many undesirable effects and even serious complications that some of the available therapies can cause. They describe transgender identification among minors as an epidemic-like phenomena brought on by, among other things, overuse of social networks. They say that psychological support has to be prioritized over medical intervention, and we need to be very honest about the long-term health effects of these transition drugs and surgeries. That's France. Finland, one of the first countries to adopt the Dutch protocol, which is the process of treating gender dysphoria in minors with puberty blockers. Now they've changed their tune. A leading expert on pediatric gender medicine in Finland said 4 out of 5 teens who question their gender come to accept their bodies if they don't receive medical intervention. She even cautioned against using children's preferred pronouns, saying this is not a neutral act. Now Finland's Council for Choice in Healthcare describes medical transition for minors as experimental and has put a severe restriction on giving out hormones. That's Finland. Now, what are we doing? Boston Children's Hospital director calls for drastic increase in capability for gender surgeries for minors. Washington Times, parents felt pressure from gender clinics to transition children, according to the study. HHS in all of its gender-affirming care. Their new report came out on March 31st on the Trans Day of Visibility. It says gender affirmation, including social transition, changing one's name, pronoun, and appearance, and gender-affirming medical care is appropriate and beneficial for many gender minority children and adolescents. Based on the individual child's or adolescent's needs, gender-affirming medical care may be medically necessary. Withholding gender-affirming medical care may be when indicated, withholding support for gender-affirming exploratory process or withholding support of social transition when desired can be harmful. Goes on and on and on. Why are we so far behind these other countries that we have always had the left say we need to be more like? Why is it the United States is pushing this poison when the countries who were looking at it honestly have started it before us and now have gone like, okay, bad idea. And they are warning against it. And we're doubling down. Why is that, America? I will tell you, this country has gone dark. And if you don't stand up now, we will make the Nazis look like rookies. We will. We are a covenant nation who has offended our God. And that doesn't leave a vacuum. Something comes in and fills that space. There will be a God, said Nietzsche. And look what he said that as a warning to the Germans. Let me say the same thing. Who is your God? Your God is science. Your God is power. Your God is money. It's not going to end well. If you need the courage to just stand up for your children, nobody wants to look at it. Nobody wants to believe it's in your own neighborhood, but it is. It is. It's everywhere. And it's a poison to our children. Join the rest of the civilized world. And quite honestly, even the barbarians of the world. We in Canada are pretty much out on this limb by ourselves. And it's got to stop.